Hello, everyone. I was debating whether or not to turn my air off because it's a little steamy today, but it's also very loud, and I didn't want it to be loud, so I turned it off. So I was waiting for that. That's what the holdup was. So random stream today. I just felt like streaming. I just felt like it because, I just thought it would be fun. And also, we won't be having a podcast episode this week because Joseph caught something last week. So that's a bit out of our control. However, I do like to run my mouth. So that is what I will be doing. And I have some topics, and we can get to those just as soon as I bring them up. I tweeted them out earlier today, about 4 hours ago. So, let's see here. Alright, let's try to frame it up real good. Okay. These are our topics for today. The Jacksonpocalypse, which, if you live in the United States, you've probably heard about it by now if you pay attention to the news. It's been on the national news. It's been all over local news for obvious reasons. Beatrice Sparks, and if you don't know who that is, you're about to learn. I'll talk a little bit about the student loan relief. I don't know if we're going to talk about this in our next podcast episode, but I just want to talk about it personally, so I will. And also House of the Dragon, because I've been watching it, and I want to talk about it with someone, because I don't think Joseph's watched it, so those are going to be our topics for today. I'm going to try to keep up with timestamps so that after the stream is over, I can mark it in the description. There'll be chapters. So, yeah, let's just get right into it. Let me mark the time. Let's see, we're at 4:26. 4:26 intro. Okay, so let's see. Actually, I have two things. One is an anecdote. Another one is just something that I wanted to address, so to speak. Nothing bad, but just something that I wanted to talk about because it is honestly it took me by surprise. I have no idea why it's happening. But I'll start with the thing to address, I guess. So my Sims iceberg video has been popping off in the last, I don't even know, couple of days, maybe 2 to 3 days. And let's see. I'm gonna go look at my analytics real quick. Yeah, it's been, let's see, what is this? August 25th. Since the 25th. It's been popping off out of nowhere. And I didn't really expect that to happen. I guess it just got by the algorithm. The algorithm do what it do sometimes. And it did that. So that's cool, I guess. Like I said on Twitter, that video remains my favorite one that I've made. And I'm glad it's getting the recognition it deserves. So that's pretty cool. Not a whole lot to that. So the second thing, which is an anecdote, which I thought was... I don't know if it's funny. It might be funny. It's funny to me, kind of. But, so I've been having, not troubles, but just some issues with my car. I mean, it's fine, but let's see. This was some weeks ago. I got 2 nails in one, not nails, screws. And I have them actually. I don't know why I kept them, but I have them. 2 screws on 1 tire, and I had to get that fixed. That didn't cost a whole lot of money. And then a few days ago, I realized that I have a screw in one of my other tires, but it hasn't been flat or anything, so I guess I'm just gonna leave it there until it causes a problem. And then most recently, over the last, I'll say last week and week before last, one of my tires has just been going flat out of nowhere. So to get to work every day, I have to go back and forth on the interstate, which is not ideal, but my other option is a road that has a lot of stoplights, and I don't like stopping. So yeah, just got to do that. I ran over something in the road. It was I couldn't see what it was. Well, I could. It just looked like a metal box about that size, and I ran over it. I was trying to maneuver away from it, but this is I was coming home for work, so this is after work traffic. So I can just get in the other lane because there's cars there. So I didn't want to get in a car accident. But I ended up running over the thing. Surprisingly, neither of the 2 tires that it came into contact with exploded on impact, but my hubcap ended up flying off. And, I tried to, like, deny it. Like, I saw a hubcap in my side mirror just rolling away. Which also, that was super dangerous, too, because there's, like, other cars coming. So that wasn't super great. But, yeah, one of my hubcaps came off, and then the tire that the hubcap came off was fine. It was just hubcap gone. And apparently, you can buy a hubcap online, so I'm not really worried about that too much. I just haven't gotten around to buying the hubcap, I guess. But the back tire, that one was just like constantly getting flat, and I kept filling it up with air, but it like kept getting flat. So I'm like, okay, I can't delay this any longer. I got to take this to a car shop. So I try to go after work to do it one day. All the car shops in a reasonable vicinity around me, they close at 5, and I get off work at 5. So that's not going to work. One of them closes at 6. And I go there, and there's already, like, a bunch of people there, I guess, waiting for their cars. And they tell me, like, hey, no. So I guess there's too many people there. Couldn't get my car fixed, whatever. So they told me to come back the next day at, like, 7 in the morning. And I was not about to do that. So I had to wait until the weekend. And so this Saturday, I finally get around to trying to find a car shop, or a tire shop specifically. And I go to one. And they're like, hey, it's going to be a 2-hour wait. And I'm like, no, thank you. I have things to do today. I had to go grocery shopping. I had to wash my hair. This takes forever, okay? Didn't end up going grocery shopping on Saturday either. So, whatever. But I go to another car shop. They're like, hey, we'll get you, but it's probably going to be around closing. And they closed at 2 on Saturday. And I'm like, you know what? I'm tired of driving around. I can't be driving on this tire anymore, because if I hit something or something else happens, or if it just goes out, then it's going to cost even more money to, like, replace the tire or repair it. So I ended up settling on this other car shop. I'm there about 10:40. All right, 10:40 in the morning. I tried to do it earlier, like as soon as they opened. I was on the phone with my parents, and then my dad called me, and he talks a lot. And I'm like, hey, I got to go, but he's, like, on 8 different topics. So there was no winning with that one. So I ended up leaving at like 10:40 something. Or no, I ended up leaving at like 10:20 something, but 10:40 I ended up actually getting to a place to fix my car. So it's 10:40. They told me it's going to be about to closing. They close at 2. So I'm not super happy about it, but I'm like, okay, I don't really have much of a choice, do I? I kind of need to get this fixed, like, today. I don't know why I didn't stay at the place that was a 2-hour wait, because at the place that I ended up going to, it was a 3-hour wait. I ended up waiting 3 hours, basically held hostage in this car shop, just waiting for my car to get fixed. So that was my Saturday. That wasn't very cool. However, something very cool that they did is they didn't charge me. They fixed my tire for free, which is honestly dope. And I've been monitoring my tire pressure light on the dashboard, because that was like on for a while, and it hasn't come back on yet, so I'm guessing they did a good job. So big ups to them for not charging me for waiting for 3 hours. But yeah, it did feel like I was being held hostage, and that kind of sucked. But anyways, that's the end of those boring stories, and we'll get on to the meat and potatoes. What time? Let's see, 11, oh no, yeah, we'll say 11:10. Okay, so we're going to move on to the first topic on my list, which is the Jacksonpocalypse. So we did we talk about, no, we didn't talk about this last week. We talked about the water situation in Jackson on my podcast last week. And basically, there's been nothing resolved with that. We're going into the 5th week now. It's almost the 5th week. It's been a month. We've been on a boil water notice in Jackson, Mississippi, for about a month now. So that's going on. But not all of last week, but most of last week and the previous week, it's been raining pretty much nonstop. And at first I was like, oh, the rain, the aesthetic, the sounds, the being almost pitch black when I wake up at like 6:30. I was cool with that for like a couple of days. But then it lasted for like a week, and I was like, you know what, this is too much rain. It ended up being like an actual problem, because for those of you who don't know, and I saw this posted on Reddit, somebody posted a CNN link on Reddit, and people are like, oh, that darn Mississippi River, and it's like, no. Jackson is not by or on the Mississippi River. The closest city to us that is on the Mississippi River is, I believe, Vicksburg. So, I don't know how far away it is. I can look it up. Let's see. Vicksburg, Mississippi. And that is, I'm gonna do some mathematicas. Let's see here. It's about 50 miles. Vicksburg is about 50 miles from here. And as such, the Mississippi River is also about 50 miles from here. So, it's not the Mississippi River is what I'm trying to say. There's a different river that runs basically all throughout, we'll say the Jackson metro area, because it's mostly, I'll say, it's like right on the edge of like Jackson proper. And it's more into like Flowood and Pearl. If you're not familiar with the Jackson metro area, then none of that's going to help you out. Open a map. Go to Google Maps. Look at that. You can see what I'm talking about. So, I mean, if you go on Google Maps, you'll see where the river is as well. And you'll also see, I'm looking at it right now. However, I'm not going to open it. I'm not going to show it on screen because that'll probably dox me, and I don't want that. But you can see Google has put little alerts saying Central Mississippi flood. And there's one here that is in, where is this? This is like Pearl. And this is like centered on some lake. It doesn't say what the name of the lake or body of water is, but I'm assuming it's because that's like overfloweth. And then there's another one that's on the Pearl River because of that situation, which I'm going to go into more detail with. And then there's an alert up in Canton, Mississippi, which is more north of Jackson. It's the closest like metro area city to it is Madison. It's like north on 51 or 55. Again, look at a map because I don't know how else to explain this to you. But that was actually because of all of the rain. Canton isn't necessarily on like any river or anything. There's some creeks and stuff that run through it, but not any like major rivers. And because of all of the rain, there's been like flash floods and stuff there. So they're still dealing with that. There's actually been some drone footage. If you look online, you can find it, of the city of Canton just like basically underwater. And the thing about Canton too is that it's not a super rich town. It is actually, if I go to Wikipedia, I can see the demographic information for it. What is the population? It's got a population of 10,000 people. Not a lot. Actually, it topped out at like in 2010 at 13,000, and now I guess it's like shrinking. And it is a majority black city. So I don't know what the median household, here we go. The median household income of Canton is $33,000, and the per capita income for this city is $15,000. Which I don't know which one is more relevant in this situation. However, Wikipedia tells me that 31%, and this is as of the 2010 census. So this may have changed. I can't imagine the situation's gotten any better, but this may have changed. 31% of the population lives below the poverty line. So that's what we're looking at for Canton, right? That's the situation there. And, I mean, really the only thing going on in Canton, there's a Nissan plant, and then Amazon opened up a robotics facility, which at first I thought it was like a fulfillment center. It might still be a fulfillment center, but they just use robots. So that's what's in Canton. Basically a lot of like factory type jobs. But that was flooded. That happened like last week. So what's going on now is that in the Jackson metro area, we have the Pearl River that's going through this like little section. It's mostly through my cardinal directions. Oh god, this is embarrassing. North, south, east. So like in the eastern part of the city. So, like, what is this? The east of I-55, that is where the river itself lies. And actually, if I was still living where I was living, which I mean, if I'm not living there anymore, I guess I could say, I used to live in downtown Jackson. I do not live there anymore. If I was still living there, I might be in trouble. Because there was a list of streets that was published in, like, the local news saying, like, hey, here's the streets that are going to be like in trouble if it starts flooding. And I'm looking here and I can see where the little flood alert is, and it's not super close to where I used to live. It's nearby though. And if the river gets any bigger than it is now, which I should say, the folks, the officials is, they're saying that the floodwaters are receding, so they're not supposed to get any bigger. However, what they're going to do is that there is a body of water in let's see, it's by Richland and Madison. We can be looking along on this together. Go to Google Maps, look up Jackson, Mississippi, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about, because I'm having a hard time describing this, but yeah, there's some required reading to be done. So there's the Ross Barnett Reservoir, which, if you're wondering, it's named after a former governor of Mississippi who was, of course, a racist segregationist. So, who else would it be named after? It's either Klan members or people who died by Klan members that things get named after over here, which is kind of sad. But I don't know if Ross Barnett was in the Klan, by the way. I do know he was a racist and a segregationist. So, maybe. But, yeah. We have a reservoir. It's a body of water, and it's held up by a dam. I'm not sure if this is a hydroelectric dam or not, like if it's actually useful, if it's just holding up some water. But if you look at the map here, you can see this body of water has a somewhat natural shape to it, and the Pearl River actually flows into it, but it's just a hard line where it stops, and that's the dam. And there's this road called the Spillway Road, and if you don't like driving adjacent to large bodies of water, you're not going to like driving over it. One side of it is kind of low. I'll say going into, I don't know, what is this area? Flowwood? Yeah, sure. Going into Flowwood, it's low, but going in the opposite direction, it's high. It's not the roads aren't on the same, they're separated, the traffic ways. I'm not doing a good job of, they're separated, one's low, one's high. If you go on the high one, you can see out on the reservoir, it's kind of cool, but it's also kind of scary. And there's also a bridge that goes over it that you drive over if you want to get to a specific place, I guess, sometimes. But yeah, all that to say is there's a dam on the Ross Barnett Reservoir on the, we'll say the south side of it, because it is on the south side of it. And out of that dam, you can see, if you're on Google Maps, watching along with me, playing along, you can see that the Pearl River just kind of ambles out of it, which, honestly, I don't know when any of this was built, but it's honestly kind of wild that there's just, big body of water, and then it just stops. I never paid super duper close attention to a map when I was looking at this, but yeah, it's basically just a little trickle of water coming out of a huge body of water, and that's held up by that dam. So, like I've said, it's been raining a whole lot around here. It's stopped, actually. It stopped raining. I don't know about other areas, but the place where I work and here in my home, it's not been raining. So, when was this? Last week at some point, not Friday, maybe Thursday or Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday. They actually, we got to go home early because of all the rain and the flooding. So it was going on, let's say last Wednesday. And I was trying to make a point and I didn't. Got to go home that time. So what they've been doing now, the reservoir, obviously with all the rain, it's been filling up, right? And it's going to reach a crest point, which basically that means it's going to get real high. And if they don't do something about it, it's going to overflow. And then a bunch of people's homes are going to get flooded, basically, is what that means. So they've been doing controlled releases of the water. And because it hasn't really... Oh, I know what I was going to say. After I went home early last Wednesday, that's kind of when it stopped raining. And to be completely honest, it hasn't really rained a whole lot since then. Not in the places where I have been, I'll say. So that's what I meant to say. It hasn't really been raining since last Wednesday. So that's actually been pretty good. Because if it continued to rain, then there'd just be more water. And they'd have to control, release more water. And then, the flooding would be worse. So what they're planning on doing is tomorrow, on Tuesday, today's Monday, if you didn't know, check your calendar, it's Monday, they're going to control release more water. I actually don't know if they're still planning on doing that because I haven't looked at the news until this morning. But like I said a few minutes ago, the floodwaters have receded. There's not as much water as there was before because it hasn't been raining as much. I do still think they are planning on doing a controlled release. But if you're playing along at home, you can kind of see where the Pearl River is, and you can see that it gets pretty close to some residential areas. Now, I saw a news report this morning, and I'm gonna see if it should still be there. Let's see. I looked at a video from somewhere. Let me see if it's here. Well, anyways, I saw a video on one of the major outlet websites this morning basically saying that, the streets are flooded, people are putting sandbags, and people have been evacuating because the mayor, who still sucks, but, he's doing the bare minimum of his job, has been telling people to evacuate. So, whether or not people have been doing that, I would assume so, I guess. And people have been sandbagging their houses, but the floodwaters are starting to recede a little bit, which is good. But they're still planning on doing the controlled release tomorrow. Actually, like I said, I don't know. I think they're still planning on doing the controlled release tomorrow. I can't see anything about it here. But the governor of Mississippi, Tate Reeves, that's not his name, it's Tate Reeves. But he sucks, so I call him Tate Reeves. He's declared a state of emergency. The mayor has also declared a water system emergency, which, to be fair, we've been in a water system emergency for at least 3 months now, so I don't know what's going on. I mean, in July, we've had boil water notices, and I mean, they're intermittent throughout the year, but we've been in a water emergency for honestly a few years, probably more than a few years, probably a really long time, but I'm just complaining. He's declared a water system emergency, whatever that means. I wonder what that means. It's because of all the flooding. That's also complicating things out. The already barely functioning water treatment plant. So, people have been getting low water pressure because of all of this. I've only gotten low water pressure since I've been living here. I've only been having low water pressure one day. It was one Thursday 2 weeks ago, and my water pressure was just slightly lower than normal, but yeah. And if you're wondering how I'm coping with all the boil water stuff, well, I'm just boiling my water. I don't know what else to say. I boil it in big batches. I have a pitcher with a lead filter in it because apparently there's lead in the water too, and I just gotta boil my water and put it in there. So far I haven't died, so it must be working. I don't know. I don't know what to say. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, that's the long and short of what's been going on. It could be way worser, but since it stopped raining last Wednesday, I think that really gave this whole area a break because it really needs one. But I'm seeing here that all JPS schools, that's Jackson Public Schools, that's the main, school system for the city, but not anywhere else in the metro area. All the other places have their own school systems. So just to give you an overview of the cities within the metro area, you have Jackson itself, which is in the center. It's the core of the metro area. And then you have Ridgeland, which is in the north, which is, it's Ridgeland. And you have Madison, which is where all the rich white people live. And then you have Brandon, which is where all the rich white people go to retire. Because houses out there, they cost so much. Also, there's a lot of somebody's outside. There's a lot of lakeside property on the reservoir that's mega expensive. I don't know if they're underwater now. I'm not gonna say anything mean about rich people with their houses underwater next to bodies of water. I'm not gonna do that. Why would I do that? And then you have Clinton, which Not gonna lie, I've literally never been to Clinton. I've never been there. I have not been there. That's out, which way is that? West. That's in the west. In the south is Richland, which is not Ridgeland, it's Richland. It's like on the opposite side. It's in the south. And then in the, what is this? What is this way? I know it's this way. It's west. No, it's east. Cardinal directions. In the east, I literally just said it. You have Pearl, which used to be a sundown town. If you don't know what that is, basically if you were not white, Anglo-Saxon or Protestant, or if you weren't a waspy type and you were found in Pearl, Mississippi after sundown, they might kill you. It's allegedly not like that anymore. I mean, I can't say that it, well, okay. If I do see a movie, I will go to the movie theater in Pearl. And that, sometimes movies get out after dark, and I don't know, I've never been threatened with murder while I was there. So I'm assuming they've changed. And then, of course, Brandon, which is, like, way out east. That is east, right? Yeah, it's east. Never eat shredded wheat. Duh. I learned that in elementary school. And then, farther to the south, which is farther south than Richland, is Byram. And I think those are the major areas. Yeah. Did I say Flowood? Flowood is also, like, it's like in the middle. It's between Ridgeland and Jackson, but also to the east. Yeah. So all those places that I just mentioned, except for Jackson and Byram, have their own water systems. So they're not really affected by, like, all the water issues we got going on here. Byram is still on the, like, Jackson City water. So anytime we have a boil water notice, they're affected as well. Anywhere else, they're fine. But if you're in Jackson, you're on a Jackson line, then you're affected. And Byram, the city of Byram, has been looking to, like, get their own water system for however long now. But yeah, somebody's definitely outside. I have no idea if you can hear that either, but yeah. So that's the lay of the land. And I feel like I was saying something about the water. We've been on a boil water notice again, going into our 5th week. It's kind of annoying. Have no idea when it'll end. As said on the last podcast episode, this one was issued by the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. The government had to step in to actually do something because the city was not. So, yeah, my neighbor. My neighbor who's feeding the rats. It's the rat neighbor. Okay, to be fair, I don't know if my neighbor's feeding the rats on purpose. I'm pretty sure they're just feeding the birds and the squirrels. But the rats are eating it too, and I've seen them. I see them, and I hear them. Thankfully, not anywhere in my abode. I pray. I feel like one day I'm just going to wake up in the middle of the night. I'm going to go to the bathroom, and I'm going to see a rat chilling out in my bathtub, and I'm going to freak out. But so far, that hasn't happened. So I guess I don't have anything to worry about, but we're not going to talk about it. So that has been what is going on with all of the Jackson water and all that stuff. So yeah, JP, I will say, this is affecting not only just people, like, in the, well, okay. I was going to say this is affecting not only just people in the city, but the schools are in the city, so it is affecting them. But anyways, Jackson Public Schools, like I said, moving to virtual learning Tuesday, which is tomorrow, because of water issues. And that could mean just because, I mean, no clean water. What they have been doing, what I've been hearing, is that they, instead of, like, having actual lunch at school, they just get the bagged lunches, which, if you've been in, like, a K-12 school after Michelle Obama went into effect, you know that those brown bag lunches suck majorly. Like, the grossest, like, cardboard consistency and tasting bread, just, like, no, like, condiments or anything. I mean, I get why, because, like, you have to store them, but, like, just the worst bread, the weirdest meat, the most artificial cheese, just so weird. I feel so bad for these kids in these schools. Like, the more I learn about Jackson school systems and just the way things work around here, the more I think that these kids are, like, doomed. They just seem doomed. There's, like, no hope for them. Like, I mean, I went to school in Alabama, which is hardly better, but the kids here in Mississippi, they have it the worst. There's a reason why Mississippi is 50 on the list. So, oh Lord. I feel like I did okay despite the school situation in Alabama. So, but there's a lot of kids that aren't going to have that opportunity, and that makes me sad. So, I'm glad I don't have kids, because I don't know how I'd be able to cope for like a number of reasons, but also because of the school situation. So I don't know. But yeah, low water pressure. Again, I haven't been experiencing low water pressure. Actually, now that I think about it, I need to check to see if I've actually gotten a water bill, because I got my water turned on June 7th, and I haven't yet received a water bill. Now, this has been an issue going back for a while. And sometimes people, they just don't get water bills. But I'm trying to see if I do. I have an online thing. It's supposed to work. Actually, no. It was July 7th, not June. Yeah. My account is showing no balance. So, listen. If I don't get a water bill, that's not my problem. That's the city's problem. And I'm not paying them anything. Because, number one, in my old apartment, I didn't have to pay the water bill. So I don't even know what's going on here. I don't have any balance due. It shows you, like, the history, and the only thing it shows me is the $127 it cost me to get my utilities transferred in my name. So I've been getting bills for everything else. I have gas, I have electric, I have internet. I mean, what else? I'm paying my rent. I mean, like, the water is just the only thing I have not gotten any kind of bill for. It's so weird. I've been checking. But let's see, it's almost about to be September and I still haven't gotten a bill. Not my problem. Not my problem. Okay? I'm washing my hands of that, because it really isn't my problem. And if they send me a bill for like $1,000, which they have been doing to people, again, not my problem. I'll pay you $60, and that's it. That is it. Oh geez. Okay. I mean, I think that's as far as I can go for the Jacksonpocalypse. So that's the long and short of what's been going on here. So timestamp 35 minutes. And we can go into our next topic. So, Beatrice Sparks, Gaslight, Gatekeep, Girlboss, World Champion. I've been tweeting about this book that I've been reading for a while, and I actually finished it, I want to say like last week. I'm going to grab it off my shelf here, so give me a minute. So, this is a book that I've been reading. It came out rather recently, I want to say in like July, what is this? Okay, it just says 2022. This book came out in July. It's called Unmask Alice, LSD, Satanic Panic, and the Imposter Behind the World's Most Notorious Diaries. So, I want to tell anyone about this who will listen, because this is just a wild story. So, I kind of broke my rule of only buying and reading books that are under 300 pages, because, listen, sometimes I just don't have the stamina for long books. The second to last book that I read before this one was Interview with the Vampire, which is, I want to say like 350. I don't feel like getting up and going to my shelf again, but it's around there, and 350 pages, and it took me forever to read, but also because that book is just kind of dense. A lot happens in it. The wording is just like really flowery. It's very literary, which is good. It works out for it. It just took me a long time to read it. This, on the other hand, did not take me very long at all. Now, I'm going to get you a page count, not including the second author's note and all this stuff. So, 384. It's 384 pages long. Which, did I say 84? 48. Good lord. Oh my god. I have dyslexia? Hope not. I get stuff turned around sometimes. Whatever. 348 pages, not 384. And this took me, I blazed through this book. I probably could have finished this book faster if I just didn't, pace myself. So, I said Beatrice Sparks, and you may not know who that is, but if you've heard of or read the book Go Ask Alice, then that's who I'm talking about. So I never fully read the book Go Ask Alice. I remember when I was like in middle and high school, I had braces. So like every 3 to 6 months, I would have to go to the orthodontist. And because of where I lived, my orthodontist was not in my hometown, because there actually was an orthodontist in my hometown. We just didn't go to that one. So I had to go out of town to go to the orthodontist. And if I was lucky, I would be able to beg for my mom to take me to a Books A Million or a Barnes & Noble and spend all her money on books. Because, I mean, hey, I'm just a book child. What can I say? And I believe we were in a Barnes & Noble one day, and I see this book called Go Ask Alice by Anonymous. The book was anonymous. I want to say this is maybe... I got my braces off in like 2015, so I want to say this is maybe 2014, because it was like later. I was in high school. So I saw this book called Go Ask Alice by Anonymous, and I'm like, oh, what secrets are within this book that this person had to be anonymous to write it? So I pick it up off the shelf, and I end up reading a good amount of it. I want to say up until like after Alice, like, by the way, the protagonist isn't named. They're just like colloquially called Alice for some reason, because the book is called Go Ask Alice. Anyway, and I read it up until like after Alice like first gets hooked on acid, and then eventually they leave the bookstore. I didn't buy the book, but I thought it was intriguing at the time. And I think somewhere down the line, I end up looking it up just to read the rest of the plot. And I see on the Wikipedia page that the book was believed to be a hoax. I didn't do much with that information at the time. But then I am on Reddit one day in July, before this book came out. And I believe the book subreddit came up, and someone was talking about this book. I think it was a review for it. And I was like, I remember Go Ask Alice. That's really interesting. I want to know like what the deal was around there. So eventually this book comes out, and I buy it on Amazon. Because, listen, I really love my local bookstore, but it's impossible to like maneuver. I don't know where anything is. If I go into my local bookstore, it's because I want to like find something new to read, not because I want something specific. So sorry for patronizing Amazon, but I wanted a specific book, and I didn't want to go through a maze to find it. And I also just didn't want to go to like a Barnes and Noble, because they're far. So I bought this on Amazon. All that to say, after it came out, and it gets here, I buy it along with Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng. I read that one first. Banger book, by the way. 10 out of 10 would recommend. It's so great. Not very long either, but wow, just pure emotion. Celeste Ng does not miss. Slight detour. I read Little Fires Everywhere like last year when I was in my unemployment era. I was just reading a lot of books because I had like unlimited time, and yeah, I read that one. I was like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. Tried to watch the Hulu show, couldn't get into it. I don't want to get into that. I just couldn't get into it. I don't know why. It's because if I read a book and I like create a world in my mind the way that I envision it, and then I see somebody else's adaptation and it doesn't line up with that, then I don't quite like it. I can't explain it. It just... Not all book-to-screen adaptations are like hitting, okay? And that one, it probably was fine. I didn't even watch past like the first few minutes of the first episode. Whatever. Read that last year. Read Everything I Never Told You. I'm going to be picking up her new book when it comes out. I was at first not super into it based on the synopsis, but honestly, she doesn't miss, so I'm going to buy it. But I bought that book along with this one. So, start reading it, and we learn a bit about the person behind Go Ask Alice, and like a bunch of other books too. The only one that I had known about was Go Ask Alice, but I believe on the shelf there are a bunch of other anonymous books in that same vein. I just didn't pick them up or read them, but she wrote a lot of them. So the story goes is that Beatrice Sparks is a psychologist who works with young people from troubled backgrounds, and a girl who was hooked on LSD and did some like unsavory things like, I don't know, prostitution, I think, talked to her and gave her her diaries and was like, please do something with it or something like that. And yeah, so when the manuscript for the book that would become Go Ask Alice was delivered to an agent, it was delivered in just like a collection of papers and notebooks and stuff and like random pen ink to make it look real. But what people, I guess, haven't realized for like a while now, or I guess they're realizing it now because the freaking book came out, the research for it started in 2015, and I guess it was kind of like a, not urban legend, but like an open secret, I guess, for a while. But basically, Beatrice Sparks made it all up. There was no girl. She's not a therapist or a psychoanalyst or a psychologist or anything like that. She went to college. She did not graduate college. She does not have a PhD. On some of her book covers, she insisted that Beatrice Sparks' PhD be put on there. She's not a PhD. I actually can't remember if she may have, okay, I'm not trying to get stuck on her, but she may have gone to college. She did not finish, is what I'm trying to say. So, yeah, basically, she made a fortune off of a lie, and right? So, Go Ask Alice, that was bad enough. Make some stuff up, sell a bunch of books. Her name was never really on it, probably until, like, later editions, because the book came out in 1971, and it ended up doing really good for her. And also, the book just kind of came at a really convenient time for a story of this nature, because the war on drugs was starting up around this time, and, you probably don't know who this is, because when I read it, I didn't know who it was, unless you're, like, older, so, high old, but this person called Art Linkletter, who was, the American every dad of the time, or I guess before the 70s, because I think in this time he's into his sunset years. He had a daughter who very unfortunately passed away by suicide. And, when someone dies that way, you're trying to figure out, especially if there's no indication, you're trying to figure out what could have happened, what happened, like how could this happen to my loved one? And for some reason, based off of really no evidence, because they did a toxicology report and it came back clean. But as stated in this book, testing for LSD is kind of hard. But the story that he went with is that his daughter got hooked on acid and she had a flashback, which, I don't know if this is true or not. I can't remember if I read this in the book, but allegedly, if you take acid and it gets it stays in your spinal cord and then it can release and you can get a flashback and go crazy. And that's allegedly what happened to Art Linkletter's daughter, that caused her to jump out a window. Probably not that. She was probably just unhappy. Who knows? Oh, geez, don't fall. Who knows? What? My daughter can't be just unhappy. There has to be something else to it. But, yeah. I will say, for everything that Art Linkletter did to, go hard in the paint against drugs, he did kind of ease off of it later in life, so he rationalized at some point, but at the time, he was understandably very upset about his daughter dying, wanted an excuse, thought it was acid. That was his rallying cry for a while. He supported Nixon. Was it Nixon? Reagan? Nixon on the war on drugs. Really supercharged that, which was really just an excuse to, lock up black people and hippies for having dissenting ideas. But maybe. Also, the whole anti-Vietnam War movement was going on at this time. As we know, cannabis, not that dangerous. Most psychedelics, also not that dangerous. But people needed something to rally against at that time, and acid just so happened to be that thing. Because of just a variety of factors that came together to make it that thing. And so Beatrice Sparks saw that, jumped on it, created this, spun the longest of yarns about this girl that she met at some summer camp at BYU. Forgot to mention Beatrice Sparks is a Mormon. And, lying is a sin, but I guess it's not a sin for Mormons. I don't know, man. I don't know. But met some girl at some BYU summer camp, which there was a BYU summer camp, and Beatrice Sparks was there, and there may have been something that happened that may have inspired this, but nobody was on acid. Nobody was doing drugs, okay? It was just a really unhappy child, and that's in 2 or so of the final chapters of this book. And so spun a yarn to sell a book to have a boogeyman for America to go against. It ended up working a little bit too well. And so Go Ask Alice really popped off in the year that it was published. So, that's not the worst thing that Beatrice Sparks has done. By a long shot. Not by a long shot, okay? Making Go Ask Alice up, kind of catalyzing the war on drugs, I might be able to forgive that if it weren't for Jay's journal. So, of course, if you have a banger book, you gotta have a banger follow-up. You can't have that sophomore slump, right? You gotta come up with something good. And something good was handed to Beatrice Sparks on a silver platter. So, this book spends some time going into the life of a 16-year-old boy from Pleasant Grove, Utah named Alden Barrett, who very unfortunately took his own life in, I want to say 75. I think 1975. Actually, I can see when it was. You know what? I'm not going through this book. I'm going to assume it was 1975. Unfortunately, he took his life. And he kept a journal, like most teenagers would, I would assume. I don't know. I kept a journal when I was a teenager. I kept it when I was in college. So I guess that's something the young folks do. But basically, we have another parent who is just emotionally toiling, trying to figure out why this happened to their child. And they see something like Go Ask Alice that's had critical acclaim. People think it's real. People think Beatrice Sparks. By this time, people know that Beatrice Sparks is the one that, like, edited Go Ask Alice. So Alden Barrett's mother, Marcella, reaches out to Beatrice being like, hey, I want to give you my dearly departed son's journals so you can spread the word about depression and what it does to kids, and maybe a parent or a kid will see it and, you know, they'll be able to relate to one another better. You know, we can maybe just, like, reach across the aisle, so to speak, to, like, get rid of this whole, not get rid of this, but, you know, get rid of this whole depression thing. I don't know. Basically, a mother was in anguish, and she entrusted Beatrice Sparks with her deceased child's journal. What Beatrice Sparks ended up doing was lying again. Lying, spinning a yarn, making stuff up for, I know why, because it sells. That's why she did it. But basically, Jay's journal came about because Marcella Barrett gave Alden Barrett's journal to Beatrice Sparks. The book says 212 entries in the journal. Beatrice Sparks used 21 of those 212 journal entries and made the rest of it up. And what she made Alden seem like, instead of just maybe a deeply troubled, unhappy young man, because in the journal entries that are actually in this book, and from what, what's the author's name? Rick Emerson says about Alden's life, it just feels like, you know, a kid who's stuck somewhere. Because Pleasant Grove, Utah isn't really big, right? In Utah, I would like to point out, almost a theocracy if Brigham Young got what he wanted, but they had to acquiesce to be a part of the United States. So, read up on the history of Utah. It's actually really, really interesting. But anyways, Utah is primarily Mormon, and this goes the same for Alden Barrett and his family. But of course, he's a highly intelligent young man. Not saying that people who are religious aren't highly intelligent. However, he's a highly intelligent young man, 15, 16 years old, really not vibing with the whole religion thing. You know, it's just kind of harshing his mellow altogether, and he gets in a whirlwind relationship with a young girl by the name of Teresa, who's a year older than him. And they have these big plans. They get, like, married at midnight in, like, a cemetery or something. It's very romantic, very, very goth, I will say that. Not satanic, by the way. Just a fake wedding ceremony between melodramatic teenagers, okay? They do all that. They're gonna run off together once Alden finishes high school, but, you know, some things happen, emotions get really high, and Alden ends up taking his life. And what Beatrice Sparks made it seem like is that he was involved with demons. He was conjuring Satan, just, you know, playing with Ouija boards, where it actually makes a point to say in the book, as it's, like, detailing Alden's life, that he wasn't even, like, really convinced or, like, into the Ouija board. He used one before, like most kids have. I haven't, because, I mean, there's really no reason. I just haven't used a Ouija board. But, you know, he wasn't, like, impressed with all of that thing. But, for whatever reason, and I'm assuming he wrote about it in his journal, because that's how we know about it, but Beatrice Sparks wrote about it in that, you know, he was, like, conjuring Germans? Not Germans. Conjuring Germans. Dankeschön. Conjuring demons. Conjuring Germans. I can't. Where did that even come from? Conjuring demons with the Ouija board and all that, and, like, sacrificing, doing animal, like, mutilation and all of that, when literally none of that happened, right? She made it up. 21 of the journal entries are real. She made up the rest of it. Out of 212, okay? His real suicide note was included in the book as well, I believe. Again, I haven't read it. I don't even know if I want to, like, give money to Beatrice Sparks' estate. I could probably, like, pirate the ebook, so there's that. But I don't even know if I want to, like, entertain any of that, because I feel like if I read Jay's journal, I'm just going to end up getting mad. I don't want to get mad all over again, because I got mad reading this. So that's not conducive to a healthy mental state, so I'm not going to do that. But if out of curiosity you want to read Jay's journal, don't pay for it. Like, I'm not encouraging theft, but I'm also not discouraging it. So, yeah, read this book instead. All you need to know is in here. Unmasked Alice by Rick Emerson. It's a little expensive, because this is, I'm assuming, a first edition. It's a hardcover. It was like maybe $27. Is this a first edition? I don't think so. It doesn't say. But there's also no number line, so I can't ascertain in that way either. But anyways, Jay's journal is probably the worst thing that Beatrice Sparks has ever done. And as you might be able to guess, Alden Barrett's family was not happy by this, at all, right? You know, Alden's suicide already, like, put a big rift in the family, and this just kind of made it worse. Like, some of the family members were like, Marcella, why'd you give this random woman our son's, like, journal, like, and she was just, she really was just trying to help. Like, she was like the rest of us, thinking that Go Ask Alice was real, and that Beatrice Sparks was not a grifter and, like, an actual psychotherapist, so, like, how could she know? And so, really, I think the worst thing about all of this is that Beatrice Sparks never had to answer for this. Like, there were rumors that Go Ask Alice and the rest of Beatrice Sparks' edited writings by Anonymous were kind of corny and fake, and, you know, she got some bad reviews in, like, papers and stuff for some of her writings because they were overly corny and didn't sound like how a teenager would talk. So, and the book does mention one interview that she had that wasn't even outwardly, like, I don't know, what is it, criticizing. It wasn't outwardly criticizing what Beatrice Sparks was doing. It just wasn't, like, outwardly positive either. And that's, like, the worst that Beatrice Sparks had to go through, for literally lying and ruining the legacy of Alden Barrett. Because after a while, people figured out that Jay's journal was about Alden Barrett. Like, it didn't take a whole lot of, like, investigative work. Like, even back then, no internet. They figured it out. They knew it was Alden Barrett, right? And so now this, like, town of Pleasant Grove has a specter hanging over it based on lies for no reason. Only because, I don't know, Beatrice Sparks wanted to moralize. Like, I genuinely, like, I get that, you know, that kind of stuff sells, and Beatrice Sparks made a lot of money off of it, but at the same time, like, why? Why would you lie? I don't get it. Like, and she never had to answer for any of this, except for now. But, unfortunately, Beatrice Sparks died in 2012, and this book came out this year. So, in reality, she kind of got away with it, and that's what sucks. She got away with ruining the Barrett's lives further than it was already ruined. She got away with lying. She got away with further catalyzing the satanic panic and the war on drugs and all the just mass hysteria about that. And do I believe the war on drugs would have continued without Go Ask Alice? Yes. Like, Nixon and Linkletter were already on a crusade, so they were going to do what they were going to do. Do I believe the Satanic Panic would have continued without Jay's journal? Maybe, because at the time, before Jay's journal came out, there's already well, I don't know if before is the correct answer. I forgot when Jay's journal came out, actually. But as you know, the Satanic Panic kind of started in 1979, 1980 with the popularity of Dungeons and Dragons. I'm just looking up when this book came out. 1978. So, yeah, I do believe that the Satanic Panic would have still been a thing because people were still on their crusade about Dungeons and Dragons and the occult and all that stupid stuff. So, but still, it certainly didn't help at all. That just gave further fuel to the fire because people believed this was real. People believed Beatrice Sparks actually talked to these children, right? People believed that Beatrice Sparks wasn't lying. And it isn't until now that there's any consequences for it, and she's not even around to see them. So if hell does exist, Beatrice Sparks is probably there, because don't forget, lying is a sin, and she's Mormon, so it's probably a super sin or something. I don't know. So yeah, that's my Beatrice Sparks rant. Oh man, you guys really have to read this book. Unmask Alice, Rick Emerson. It's a little expensive now because it just came out, but it's worth the money 100%. It's very fast. The chapters themselves are usually pretty short. One thing that I really appreciate about this book, right, only because I read a book that absolutely did not do this, is that in the author's note, is that it makes a point to say that no dialogue is invented. All this is coming from direct interviews or primary sources or, actual people's journals, so stuff that Rick Emerson was able to get from actual people who have said or thought things. Because I read a nonfiction book, a book that was purported to be nonfiction. Not either of these books, by the way. When I was in college, my English teacher gifted me 2 books. One of them was about, I want to say it was the 333rd Artillery Division in World War II. Is the all-black battalion. And I believe they were the ones who got massacred in a sort of kind of war crime. Yeah, that on its own is a very interesting story. The book itself was garbage. I can't remember the name of it. I'm not going to say it because then me speaking of it might make it more popular for some reason. But it's terribly written. I don't. Because it just makes up dialogue. It's like fiction written by journalism students. It's not good at all. At all. It's so bad. I don't know what it's called. I don't care to look up what it's called. I just know that I've read a book like that and it sucked and I hated it. This book does not do that. Thank God. Because I don't know if I would be able to take it. But yeah. So like I was saying, the chapters themselves aren't very long. And they end with a hook. Each chapter ends with a hook. Rick Emerson knew what he was doing writing this. Because I could not stop reading this book. I had to make myself stop reading it. And there was a point where I was near the very end, where I'm getting to the point where okay, we're at the end of this book. Hopefully we're going to see Beatrice Sparks is going to pay for her crimes. That ended up happening, of course, but I was reading this book. I was staying up late. I stayed up almost until 10 and had to work the next morning. I was oh man, I gotta read this book tomorrow morning and see what happens next. And I don't think I've felt that way about a book in a really long time. So, I'm asking you nicely to read it, so please read it if this is something that interests you. It's a really good book, okay? It will make you mad, it will make you sad, but you will learn a lot, and maybe, hopefully, if more people know what was really going on, then Beatrice Sparks will pay for her crimes. And hopefully I didn't spoil this book too much. It's really, honestly, I think it really is best to go in blind, or at least semi-blind, because if you know about Go Ask Alice, just kind of a little bit like I did, then this is an eye-opener, okay? My eyes were wide open, right? So, that will conclude this section, my little book review. We're at 1 hour and 1 minute and 54 seconds. So, okay, I have 2 more things to go. Student loan relief and House of the Dragon. I'll talk a little bit about student loan relief, not too much. How did I feel when I learned about it? I said happy, I would be lying. If I said mad, I would be lying. I didn't really feel any type of way when I heard it. I guess I just expected it to happen. I don't know. Like, I kind of saw it coming. I knew this would happen. I knew it wouldn't be 50,000 like he originally promised, but I have since learned not to expect things from people, so when this did happen, I was like, yeah, whatever, it's fine. So basically, if you don't know, somehow, this all dropped, last week, I think? Yeah, like last Wednesday. The United States government said that if you make under $125,000 a year as your income, or however much it was jointly, I didn't pay attention to that because I don't have a manses to file jointly with, then you will get $10,000 just yeeted out of your federal student loan debt balance. And if you received a Pell Grant, you will get $20,000 yeeted out of your student loan balance. And I did, in fact, receive a Pell Grant while I was in college. It wasn't a whole lot because my need wasn't great enough, I guess. So I'll be having $20,000 of the $23,000 of federal student loans just poofed away. Which, I mean, hey, that's great. You know, the less I have to pay, the better. But the majority of my student loans are like private loans. So I still have all of that to deal with, which isn't great. In fact, I think I have more in private loans than I do in federal loans. And that's because there's like a limit on how much like federal money you can borrow per year. And I went to a private school, which may have been a mistake for a number of reasons, but it ended up working out. I guess I'm just in debt like everybody else, so I think it'll be fine. Yeah, $20,000 gone out of my balance, just like that. I still have a lot more to pay, but I still think this is a net positive for, I mean, anyone, you know, having all that money just poofed out. That's pretty great. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I don't have a whole lot of opinions about this. I think it's good for me because now I'm $20,000 less in debt, so that's cool. Still have a lot more, but every little bit counts, you know. Every little bit counts. So that's what I can say. You know, I'll say this. There's a lot of, it's Republicans. I'm just gonna say it. It's Republicans saying this. A lot of people saying that, these good working folks are gonna have to pay for people's lesbian dance theory degrees. I don't even know who said that, but it was trending on Twitter once. I thought, man, if I could take a class called lesbian dance studies, I would be so enriched. But yeah, people are saying, why should a mechanic from Ohio have to pay for a gender studies major's degree from like Portland or whatever? And it's like, first of all, you're being rude for no reason. And secondly, there's no such thing as a useless degree. It's just people who don't know what to do with them, right? And I believe I've either said this in a video or a podcast episode before, but I guess a lot of people would not agree, but argue that my degree of film production is useless. Or even people within the film industry, they might call me a dummy dumb doo-doo head for going to school for film when I could just, work my way up as a PA. But, I wouldn't even know how to do any of that if I didn't, go to school. And I will say this, Belhaven, which is a school that I went to, probably the only film program, one of the only film programs in the nation that you can get into with no experience. So I'm very thankful for the things that I learned while I was there. And I know, as I've said in my follow-up screenwriting update video, I know I only have up to go. So I think it's working out for me. I'm making it work for me. It has no choice but to work for me, basically. So, yeah, that's what I have to say about that. And we can move on to House of the Dragon. Oh, hold on, let me mark it. 106.58. 106.58. Loans. Okay, so, House of the Dragon. The much anticipated follow-up to Game of Thrones. So, Game of Thrones, the first season aired when I was like 10. So, obviously, I did not watch it when it first came out. I believe I started watching it around season 6. That's when I started watching it. And season 6 was fine. I didn't start watching from there, by the way. I watched the whole series up until season 5. Then season 6 came on. I watched it. Season 6 was alright. Season 7 was season 7. Season 8 was season 8. I picked the wrong time to pick it up. But I still had watched the earlier seasons, and I really liked them. So I had, no reason to just, dump it. I wanted to see how it ended, It was... I distinctly remember in season 8, a lot of episodes were just characters looking emotionally at one another. Not a whole lot going on. Honestly, I was watching some video where the people in it had to guess how each Game of Thrones character died, and they showed Varys, and I was like, what are you talking about? Varys didn't die. Is this a trick question? But no, apparently Varys died in season 8, I guess. I don't know. That's how little I remember about season 8. So it was a whole thing. I didn't read the books. I listened to them in audiobook form. So there was that. I liked the books a whole lot. I remember I finished the first audiobook in a day. And A Song of Ice and Fire is by no means a short series. I believe the first book is maybe 500 pages. I can look it up. It's not super important, but I'm going to look it up. It's probably 694. Wow, that's more than 500. So yeah, the first book is 694 pages. I believe the audiobook was 14 hours long, and I basically just marathoned it throughout the entire day because I was so enthralled with it. And honestly, I kind of forgot how into Game of Thrones I used to be. I used to be into it, watching. I still watch the lore videos, but I was watching all the Alt-Shift-X videos. I was on the wiki just reading everything. I was so into it. But then after the show aired, I was like, okay, that was a thing that happened. But now I guess I'm back into it because House of the Dragon, the first episode aired last Sunday, the 21st of August. And, I thought it was fine. It did what it needed to do. I was getting into it, the Alt-Shift-X had uploaded some new videos about just the background of it, and I was like, okay, I'm getting into this again. This is cool. So, and then, it started up, and I was like, oh, this is great. Honestly, I just kind of miss being into a show that's, currently airing, because, let's see, I haven't even been watching Drag Race for that long. Honestly, only the last couple of seasons. Very, very excited for season 15 whenever it airs. I kind of already spoiled myself with the cast because I had to look up when it would air. There's no air date yet. There's nothing has been announced. I'm really hoping that stays on VH1 because if they move the main Drag Race seasons to Paramount Plus, I don't know what I'm going to do because I'm certainly not going to pay for Paramount Plus. Are you joking? No. Why would I do that? So anyway, that's neither here nor there. House of the Dragon. So that first aired a couple weeks ago. Watched the first episode. I'm like, okay, I'm kind of into this. Second episode was yesterday, last night. And I was like, okay, original theme. Okay, original theme song. They brought it back because for the first episode, it was just kind of, honestly, it didn't even really have an intro. It was just the Targaryen emblem and some, sounds, and that was it. But now they brought back the original theme and a new little, I thought they were going to bring back the locations opening, but there's really no reason to do that now because they're only following one storyline really, because in Game of Thrones you had the Starks in Winterfell, you had not Ned, you had what's his name, Jon Snow at the Wall, you had Dany in Essos, you had sometimes you went to Dorne. There's a lot going on in a bunch of locations, so I can understand why they use that. But now they're mostly just in King's Landing, and then they went to Dragonstone. I'm not going to spoil anything, by the way. But they did go to Dragonstone. Yeah, it's really good. I'm wondering how much, just from a production standpoint, I'm wondering how much of the stuff they reused. Because it is 100 years prior to the main events of Game of Thrones. At least I think it's 100 years. A large amount of time before all that. And what? Bro. Okay. I have the Google page open because I Googled Game of Thrones, to see the page link. And under people also ask, is Game of Thrones real story? People just be Googling anything, I guess. I want to see what it says. Well, okay. That is reasonable because the War of the Five Kings is based on the War of the Roses. All right, I'll give them that. It's not a stupid question. Never mind. I'm clicking off of Google. Anyway, honestly, right now, I'm just kind of no thoughts, head empty about it. There's not a lot going on. I will say it didn't take me that long to get into Game of Thrones. Embarrassingly, it's because there's hot dudes in it, but also because the first episode is just fire. Like, it is a little slow at the start. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of characters you have to keep up with. And honestly, as I was watching the first episode for the first time, I was like, okay, I'm not entirely sure that I'm into this. This is, like, really popular for some reason. And keep in mind, this was, like, after the 5th season had aired. So it was still in the good graces of the public at this point. I was like, okay, I guess it's okay. But then, when, when Jaime tosses Bran out of the tower, I was hooked. I was in at that point. So they got me there. You know, in a television pilot, what you're supposed to do, you're supposed to establish the world. There's supposed to be a conflict contained within the episode. It's supposed to establish the conflict of the overarching story of the season, and then you're supposed to hook your viewers with something to keep them watching, and that was the hook to keep me watching. It was very effective as a pilot. As I understand it, there's like some tomfoolery that went on. Not tomfoolery. It's just a really difficult pilot to make, which I can understand because just the scale of it is probably really expensive, and I don't know. I saw a video that said it was like an ordeal. I didn't watch the video, but I'm going to take the title and the thumbnail at face value because I'm smart. So, but yeah, there were some changes from the pilot to the, like, rest of season 1, like, I remember. But I can't remember what they were, so I don't know. But, definitely, I'm not going to rewatch Game of Thrones anytime soon because it's just a long series, and I don't know if I have time for that anymore. Like, I used to have time to watch, like, multiple hour-long videos every day, but now that I'm working, I can't do that anymore. It's really unfortunate, too, because it's, like, my favorite content is multiple hour-long video essays and, like, shows and stuff, but I don't know. I haven't had time, I'm sorry, but I'm into House of the Dragon. I'm into it. I'm going to keep watching it. I'm going to be discussing it. I know some juicy things are going to go on. It's already been renewed for like a second season, which is a bit audacious for HBO. I mean, this was after the first episode had aired. And also, I was under the impression, I guess wrongly, that this was going to be a limited series because it's only based on one book. But if they're giving it multiple seasons, then I guess they'll have more time to actually flesh out the story of the singular book. In fact, is it Fire and Blood? Fire and Blood. I don't know how long it is. It's 736 pages. So that is pretty long, but to give that one book 2 seasons is certainly interesting. And I know, like, a lot probably goes on. So it may be warranted. I don't know how many episodes are in this first season. I'm assuming 10. Oh no, it's 300 years. Oh geez, wow. Okay. Yeah, it's 300 years, not 100 years. Actually, I don't know. I'm forgetting. I'm forgetful. I don't know. It might be 100 years in the show and 300 in the book. I forgot. Anyway. But like I said, it would just be really cool to be obsessed with something that's currently on the air. You know, after Mr. Robot ended and that was over and done with, it was like, man, that was certainly an experience watching that air live. I was only there for the second, third, and fourth seasons. I watched those live, but the first season I didn't. However, you know, I don't know whose choice that was, but or if it was USA's or the showrunners, but having so much time in between each season really did not do Mr. Robot a service, because it ended up losing viewership in between the seasons because we were waiting years for them. So it holds a special place in my heart. I talk about Mr. Robot a lot. And then of course there's Drag Race whenever Drag Race is drag racing, which is year round these days, but I'm talking about like main series America seasons. Those are the only ones that I have any interest in anyways. I mean, All Stars kinda, but they're not aired on TV, so I don't. Again, I'm not paying for Paramount Plus, okay? I was trying to see if I could use my TV login, because my parents still have cable, and that's how I use. That's what I use for HBO Max, because they let you with cable. However, with this HBO Max Discovery merger, I don't even know if that's still going to be a thing. Because if it isn't, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm certainly not going to pay for HBO Max. Like, well, I don't know that. I might pay for HBO Max. I like some of their offerings. Speaking of HBO Max, this isn't really about House of the Dragon anymore. I don't have a whole lot to say about it other than I like where it's going so far. I think it's cool, and I'm looking forward to watching it live each week. It's fun. What can I say? But I've been watching Succession, right? So I tried to watch the first episode a while back, and for whatever reason, I just wasn't into it. And I was like, okay, maybe I should give Succession a chance, a fighting chance. And so I kept watching, and I was like, oh, I'm into this. Wow, okay, that's cool. No likable characters. You can't. There's nobody to like in this cast. I don't have nobody to root for. I'm rooting for all of their downfalls, honestly, if I'm being honest. I don't like nobody. Everyone is annoying and everyone sucks. Especially Kendall. I hate Kendall the most. Kendall sucks the most, and I'm praying for his downfall the most. Right? I'm only on season 2. So, who knows, there may be plenty of time. Even though he's done everything to ruin himself at this point, I guess he's just, okay, there was an alert. Do not panic. 'Twas an alert. He's done everything to ruin himself, and still she's just fine, I guess. So, Kendall sucks. Tom, okay, I didn't like Tom at first. He also sucked. But given all the stuff that's going on, I mean, he still has some weird American Psycho tendencies, which is strange. But at the same time, I think he deserves better, especially from Siobhan. And, like, actually just from Siobhan, that's it. Siobhan sucks, but sucks less than the rest of them, because, like, she's just trying to get in where she fits in. She's not, like, in the company or anything like that. And she's just kind of just trying to do what she can with her name to get where she needs to go, I guess. And, she's got the Girlboss energy, so she's got that working out for her. But aside from that, not a lot to like. The whole affair thing. Tom isn't even that bad of a guy. So when she cheated on him, okay, spoilers for the first season, I guess. So when she cheated on him, it was like, okay, I don't like that. Like, what was that for? And then there's, let's see, Colin, the anti-vaxxer, I guess. Well, he's not anti-vaxxer. There's a fly in here. But, like, the doomsday prepper, he is also super annoying, but at least he's not like Kendall, I guess. And then there's Roman, who's also, like, super annoying, but his only redeeming quality is that he has most of the funny moments, and that's cool, I guess. I mean, who else? Logan also sucks. Don't like him. Marsha also sucks. Really conniving. I feel like she's about to get up to something, because they kind of hinted at that with the whole stroke thing and, like, not letting any of the kids see Logan. So I think her sneaky powers are latent. So hopefully they'll come out in full force, because I would like to see that. Because I just want to see the family implode. What can I say? I don't like any of them. Gosh, who else is there? I mean, that's kind of it. Oh, Greg! How could I forget about Greg? Greg is just annoying. He's so annoying. I mean, fantastic actor. Because I just want to punch him in the face. I don't like him. He's annoying. He's dumb. He's just, I don't like him. Hopefully he grows a backbone at some point. Because, I mean, hey, Greg is there for a reason to be, I guess, the punching bag. So what else can he do? But I just don't like him. But despite the fact that all the characters are horrendously unlikable, I do like the series. You know, I thought it was going to be boring with all the, like, business, rich people problems things, but, you know, I unexpectedly like it. So, that's fun. That's another thing on HBO Max that I care about. So, yeah. Almost an hour and a half. It's 8:22 in the evening. And I have work tomorrow. And I'm getting all phlegmy, so that means it's time for me to go. I'm going to... Yeah, that's fine. So, after the stream, I'm going to put timestamps in this video. I'm also going to decide whether or not I want to cut some of these pieces out and make them into their own separate videos. I thought that might be a fun idea, you know. Maybe, oh, I can't do it this weekend because I'm going to be living it up elsewhere because it'll be my birthday. Well, okay, my birthday is technically Friday, but that is the weekend. I'm calling it the weekend because I took off work, so... That is my weekend. It's going to be Labor Day. I'm going to do my yearly tradition of posting the Labor Day video on my community tab. That'll be fun. I literally watch it every year. Yeah, so, yeah. Maybe not this weekend. Maybe at some point. I don't know. Shoot. Like, I don't have a lot of time. Anyway, that's going to be it for this stream. Thank you for stopping by. I do get not quite a few, but I do get some people watching my streams after the fact. So if you're watching and you made it this far, leave something in the comments. Do you also hate Beatrice Sparks? Do you also think she's rotting in hell? Let me know. I want to know. I want to know these things. I want to know. I would like to know. So, yeah. That's gonna be it for this video. Oh. Video. This is a stream. Anyway, I have to go. It's I tired. Honestly, I'm not even that tired. I can't tell you guys what I have been reading. I'm just gonna scoot back here real quick. Okay. This is what I've been reading now. Actually, okay. I made a not Storyblocks. Is it Storyblocks? I think it's called Storyblocks. I made a Storyblocks account and I've been sort of keeping track of what I've been reading, mostly because I just want recommendations for new books, because I'm running out of things that I want to read, so I found a few books to read, so that's good. So this is Excavation. It's a memoir. You can barely see it because it's white on light blue, but it's by Wendy C. Ortiz. It talks about her illicit relationship with her English teacher when she was in the 8th grade, mind you. And the only reason I'm reading this book is because there's another book that I read last year in my unemployment era called My Dark Vanessa, and there are accusations that it lifted a lot of details from this book to a plagiaristic degree. And listen, it's been a while since I've read My Dark Vanessa, but I'm not seeing it. The two stories feel distinct from one another. So, at least I think it was this book. I'm pretty sure it was this book. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna solve this. I'm gonna look it up. My Dark Vanessa Controversy. Here we go. So let's see here. Okay, so what Wendy Ortiz did was write an essay that claimed that Kate Elizabeth Russell, the writer of My Dark Vanessa, which is fiction, maybe sort of plagiarized her experiences, and let's see. Yeah, eerie story similarities. And honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of not seeing it. You know? I mean, maybe it's between English teacher and student, but like, I've also read other nonfiction pieces where a young woman gets caught up with an English professor or an English student, and it's like, that happens. And I guess it's also kind of extra spicy because Wendy Ortiz is a person of color and Kate Elizabeth Russell is not, and, you know, kind of co-opting someone else's experiences for your fiction. Not a great look if that is what happened. I'm pretty sure Kate Elizabeth Russell maintains that that's not what happened, but I did want to read this just to see what was going on. And like I said, even though it's been a while since I've read My Dark Vanessa, I don't see it here. I mean, I do see a very tragic story here, much like My Dark Vanessa, but the only difference is that this actually happened to a person. So, yeah. This came out in 2014, by the way. I'm trying to remember when My Dark Vanessa came out. I want to say 2017. This says 2020. Let's see. Just look it up. It came out in 2020. That's actually fairly recent. I read it, like a year after it came out. So, jury is still out on that one for me. I am almost finished with it. I am on page 171 out of, let me see here, 171 of 235? Nope, 235. So I'm almost done with it. If I didn't stream this eve, I probably would have finished it. So yeah. Quick read. I guess because the pages, they feel thick. And the text is like really large as well. That just kind of stuck out to me, and it's also just not long. So, bit of a detour, but yeah, that's what I've been reading now. My next book, which is also, it's back there, I don't want to get it. What is this? Our Wives Under the Sea. It's gay, and it's also thriller? I think it's a thriller. I don't know. It might be a thriller. Also under 300 pages, graciously. One of the people that I follow on my other Twitter account tweeted about how the UK version of the cover of that book, like, hits harder than the US version, which I will say, the current book cover meta is kind of weak. I do like the UK version a lot more. However, that was not available to me in purchasing channels, so I'm stuck with that version, I guess. It also recently came out, I think. I don't know. Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia, who is this? Armfield? Yeah. Gee, this came out August 16th? Are you serious? No. Because I heard about it way before August 16th. That's not true. August 16th, 2022. It came out July 12th. I don't know what the Google sidecard is getting that information from, but it came out in July. So, someone I followed tweeted about it. I read the synopsis. I was like, perhaps I will purchase it. And so I did. And hopefully it lives up to the very little hype that I made in my mind for it. So, yeah, that's that. I have a couple of books that I want to read next. But it's getting late. It's getting late. Tell me why I'm supposed to be here. I don't know what song that is. I'm gonna look it up. Classic R&B. It's getting late. Tell me why I'm supposed to be here. What is this? Tyla? Who is Tyla? I'm assuming it's Tyla. The weather station. I don't know. Did I make that song up?